Good evening. I call the regular meeting of the Menifee City Council to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilmember August. Councilmember Leesmeyer.
Here.
Councilmember Edgerton. Here. Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Denver. Here. Mayor Mann.
Here.
Thank you.
And we have some presentations to make tonight. Announcement of winners of some holiday tree lighting contests and some other accolades. Would you please take that away?
Or do you want to do words of inspiration and flag salute
Oh, yes,
first?
of course. I'm sorry. Did I jump to that? Yeah, I'm sorry. Words of inspiration, please.
Tonight, sir,
I'm so
that's
excited.
Bishop William Stevens, Menifee Lakes Congregation, Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints.
Thank you. I'm glad you didn't forget prayer. That's so important.
Yeah, never will.
Appreciate that. Our dear Father in heaven, as we gather as a few of the members of this city, residents and with staff and with our good council and good mayor, we're grateful to be here tonight. We're grateful for the blessings that we enjoy of this good city, for the forward thinking of those that sit on the diocese here tonight and those other members who sit on different planning commissions. We're grateful for their service. Pray that they'll be continually blessed with the fortitude and strength to make decisions and choices that will bless us as a city. It's a beautiful place to live, and we're grateful to live in this great town. Bless us, Heavenly Father, as we move forward in the year 2015, that we will continue to have a blessed place to be. With all the construction and some of the traffic, we know that it takes time to work out these different situations, and we pray that it will take place. We pray also this night that we'll remember the true meaning of brotherhood, especially those who will speak tonight, that they'll remember to be respectful to the council and to the mayor, that the passion that they have might be brought forth and keep it within the bounds of love. We do love thee, Heavenly Father, and are grateful for thy Son, especially during this time of year where we can worship him more openly. As we see the lights throughout the town, we are grateful to see them, and it brings joy and happiness during this time. We do give thee thanks for our many blessings and look forward to a great year. And then once again, we ask a blessing to be upon the city council, especially our mayor and those that make those decisions and choices. Won't they be in line with the conscience of their heart and those things which are right and good? We pray this night and do so in the sacred name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop Stevens. Mayor Pro Tem Denver, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now we have our presentations. Mr. Lennox, would you please take charge of the ceremony? And council, would you join us up front?
Thank you very much, Mayor and members of council. I'll go ahead and begin the introductions of the winners up front with the other microphone.
Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here tonight to announce the winners of the first, what we hope to be an annual holiday house decorating contest. We can't take full credit for this. This was actually one of the brainchilds of a combination of Menifee 24/7 and I guess a tradition they've done with the Halloween holiday each year, and then some additional comments and interest from our own Councilman Denver to continue that tradition into the holiday season. So. Without further ado, we did advertise this contest citywide as an opportunity for community members to decorate their homes in the winter spirit and the holiday spirit with lights and other types of fanfare related to the Christmas season, and had a great outpouring and result, and a great partnership with Menifee 24/7 to put it on this year. So. I'd like to just jump right into it and begin with announcing the winners of each category. And here tonight to help, Kristen Spoon from Menifee 24/7, who put her heart and soul into the program, as well as Doug Spoon, who's in the back. So we do appreciate their help. And with that, the first winner, Best Use of Lights, goes to two individuals, Daniel, and I'm going to try my best not to butcher the last name, Daniel Lechnetko, and Richard Bobola. Yeah, come on up here. To which? Oh, yes. The stack here. I'm sorry. It's that one right behind Matt. And both Daniel and Richard are the happy winners of a $50 Sports Chalet gift card for their effort. So come on over in the middle. We have a certificate for each winner tonight from the city. Go ahead and turn around for a photo op right now, right there. Your certificate right in front of you there. There you go. Great. Next category was most festive, and this one went to Kirsten Castorena. Kirsten Castorena, please come on up. And Louis Castorena, the whole family contributed to this. And the Castorena family is the winner of a $50 TJ Maxx gift card. Right. Next category was most spiritual, and this award goes to Michael Nunn. Michael Nunn? No, I'm sorry, Knoll. Michael Knoll. And Michael is the recipient of a $50 gift card to Target. Okay, next award goes to category, and this was an added category because there was such a overwhelming response. Most creative decorating job goes to Jason Shelb. Jason Shelb, I believe that's how you say the last name. There he is. Jason and his family are the recipients of a $50 gift card to Sherwin-Williams.
Come on back and get these certificates.
Now this next category is a little bit of a big one. There's going to be quite a few of you we know. The Block Theme Community Decorating Award goes to the Pine Leaf Block. The whole neighborhood's here, we see. And I'm going to go ahead and, there's a total of, I believe, 8 homes, I'm sorry, 8 homes. And I'm going to go ahead and mention the names first and then try to funnel you through here. Cindy and Eric Wolf. Janelle and Ryan Huizinga. Emily and Josh Kelly. Don't go far. Stay up here so we can get a group photo. I think I said Emily and Josh Kelly. Yes, wonderful. Michelle and Justin Childers. Didn't make it? Okay. Christy and Eric Cranfill. Jerry and Lindy Morris. Phil and Gina Biasi. And last but not least, Ernie and Sharon Leggett. And all of the residents on this block that participated are going to receive 2 tickets to the Aces Comedy Club as well as the Menifee swag bag.
Okay.
Wait, we got forehand. More.
Don't forget your swag bag.
Did everybody get one? Okay, looking forward. You have one?
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Don't go anywhere. All right.
Congratulations. Hey.
Thank you, guys.
And we have one more category left as soon as we clear out.
Be a singer
All right, the Big Award for Best in Show. So overall, the committee that reviewed the entries determined that this entry was the best in show. Had a little bit of everything, most festive, humorous, best display, you name it. This award goes to Mary and Christopher Carnes. And the Carnes are the recipients of a $250 gift card to Living Spaces. And while we're finishing this up, Kristen has a little bit of announcement regarding the program in case those in the public want to go and see the sites. I'll let her explain that piece.
We're so excited that everybody chose to participate, and hopefully next year we'll have even more. But we wanted to let you know that the pictures and videos of all the houses will be on our site with a map, so you can go on and actually take the tour. So you'll want to jump on Menifee247.com so you can also see what you were competing against. And hopefully you'll be able to get into the Christmas spirit, and we want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
And before Kristen goes too far, the city did want to recognize the contributions of Menifee 24/7 for this. So Kristen and Doug, if you're hiding somewhere, please come on up. We have a certificate for you, and we appreciate the partnership, and we'd love to see this happen in the years to come. So come on up.
before you leave, I want to share a personal note with you two. You know, you have epitomized what it takes to take a business and transition it to another model. Menifee 24/7 has grown from one point to another, and you two should be justifiably proud of your business model because you've expanded it, you've expanded your business, you've expanded your advertising and marketing into even other markets well beyond Menifee. And congratulations to you. That's what America is all about. Thank you very much for doing what you do and covering Menifee news and every other surrounding community. We wish you the best. Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to you. Well done.
And while we have the council held captive up here a little bit longer, we want to take this opportunity to recognize some of what was already acknowledged at the prior meeting, which was the successes of the holiday tree lighting event, which in the prior years occurred here at the City Hall and now have been transitioned over to the Menifee Town Center. The mayor is holding a number of certificates, and I know there are a number of volunteer groups that were instrumental in delivering that program. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, the Community Services Department could not deliver these alone with 3 staff. There's no way. It really took the combined efforts of everyone in the community. So with that, I'd like to invite those folks up, and we'll go ahead and read the names. And I don't have my list in front of me, so I'm going to have to look at the certificates. First, we'll have Menifee Arts Council. Menifee Arts Council, come on up.
There you go.
And next, we have Menifee Valley Chamber of Commerce. Dorothy. Paloma Valley High School Band. Paloma Valley High School Key Club, Kiwanis. Paloma Valley High School Interact Club, Rotary. Heritage High School Band. Youth Advisory Committee. From the Youth Advisory Committee here tonight. Menifee Senior Advisory Committee. I know we have a couple here. Chuck, Victoria, come on up. St. Vincent's Fair Catholic Church. Lake Menifee Women's Club. Menifee Valley Community Cupboard, and there's Don. Regent Properties and Valley Crest, which I'm not sure they're here tonight, but they were very helpful in donating the site for the event. John and Linda Denver, of course, for their contributions. So. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Riverside County Fire Department, CAL FIRE. I know the chief is here somewhere. There he is. Riverside County Sheriff Department. I know there's a couple of you here. They're hiding. There we go. Menifee Police Explorers, Post 315. And also Paris Police Explorers, Post 522. Menifee Crime Watch. We're going to fit everybody in.
You can stand right in front. There's no stand right here in front.
Miss Menifee Pageant Queen and Princess Court. And last but not least, we said before and we'll say it again, we appreciate the contributions of Menifee 24/7.
So let's get everybody in. Create a couple rows and get a photo. You come in. Somebody take charge.
You may want to go back out further.
All right. Well done, everybody.
And I was reminded that we actually missed one category in the holiday light decorate or house decorating contest, and that was for the most humorous. The winners were Ken and Michelle Buckles. Ken and Michelle, are you here? Yep, they're coming in. All right. And they are the lucky winners of gift certificate to Texas Roadhouse for $50.
Congratulations. Stand in front. Give you this. Yep. Here we go.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay, I think that concludes those
That
presentations.
does. I do want to make sure I recognize the city staff that volunteered, so not necessarily ones that were paid to be there, but those who took time out of their day, or after their day, I should say, to be part of the event. Rafael Martinez, Don Sharp, Julie Woodruff, Carlos Geronimo, Gina Gonzalez, Anne-Marie Etienne, Wendy Welch, Lori Matley, Jen Trujillo, Tara Magner, Kathy Bennett, Jeff Wyman, Crystal Robinson, Vanessa Franco, and of course, your community services staff, Alan and Margarita, whose sweat and toil they put into this event was immense. So thank you very much.
Thanks, one and all. Congratulations. Community service is what makes things happen in the community. If it wasn't for the community and people coming together, none of this would happen. Doesn't matter about anything else. It's all about that volunteer service. Congratulations to everybody.
How's your knee after that?
It hurts. All right, well done, everybody. Thank you for your leadership, Mr. Lennox and Mr. Johnson, for making those things happen and engaging in the community, and for all those who step up in the community from all those quarters to make things happen. Well done. That's what makes a community happen. Thank you so very much. On to agenda item 6.1. Are there any modifications to the minutes from the meeting of December 3rd? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. Agenda approval or modification. I do have one agenda modification. Agenda item 12.3 is going to be moved to a subsequent meeting based upon approval, excuse me, not approval, but input from staff. I want staff to review a proposal and bring it back for the future, so that's off agenda for tonight.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Noted.
Mr. Mayor?
And we have on to public comments. Is there any other agenda items for modification of the agenda tonight?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Regarding 12.3,
Uh-huh.
you said you're going to turn it over to staff for a proposal.
Uh-huh.
What would that proposal be?
I have a draft. I have a draft policy for consideration by council and for the city attorney and staff to bring back for us to review. All of us. I don't want to spring it on anybody tonight. So everything stays as it is. I'd like the city attorney to review it. I don't want to surprise the public. I want the public to be able to see those proposed changes. And so based upon that, we'll move that to the next agenda or maybe even the subsequent one. On to public comments. Madam Clerk, could you please call the first speaker?
Yes, sir. Chuck Reuter.
My name is Chuck Reuter. I live in Menifee, in the Sun City section of Menifee. And Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, fellow citizens, we're just seeing an example tonight of what happens when people get together and work toward a common goal. That was that family that won that block thing. I can imagine that taking place. Anyway, I want to make a comment on the last election that we had. And by the way, I want to congratulate John Denver, Scott Mann, and Matt Leesmeyer for getting elected. During the campaign, I brought up an issue about the smear stuff. And I want to make that more clear to you. The reason I was upset about the smear campaigns is because it makes it very difficult for the council to work together after the election. You said that about me. You said that about me. You know, and the hostility that carries over from that kind of campaigning hurts us. So I'm going to issue a challenge to this city council to do something different. And that is to come together and think about the city of Menifee more than themselves. I think it's very important. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Reuter. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Ms. Clerk.
Red Sullivan.
Good evening. I'm Carol Red Sullivan, and I am the president of Menifee Sun City Concern. As you all are aware, at Thanksgiving we gave out 116 hot meals on Thanksgiving Day, which was a big success. We're repeating that Christmas Eve. So we are anticipating giving out about 120 hot meals to our homebound and those who can't get out. So anyone who wishes to volunteer with donations of food, money, or time, we would love to have you. But we are going to do it again, and it's such a success. We'll probably do it again at Easter. The homebound really enjoy this, and it's a way for them to connect with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Next speaker, please.
Katie Manier.
Good evening. Tonight I have a Christmas wish for you all. Matt Leesmeyer, I wish for you to keep your promises when you were running for office. Make wise choices as you move forward. Mr. Denver, I wish for you to get off your pompous butt and quit being a puppet to the mayor. Transparency is not knowing ahead of time how you will vote. Mr. Edgerton, I wish for you to quit rambling on and on. Give thought to clearing the air so people know the truth. Somebody owes the sick answers. And Greg, I wish for you to have your planning commissioner get some awards from this city for environmental issues instead of going to other cities when we have environmental issues here. And Scott, I know you work in Moreno Valley, but there's no reason to bring the same sort of people to this city. Rapid growth brings change, all right? Brings change that isn't always good. We are overloaded with rentals. Crime is up an astronomical amount, and there is graffiti all over the walls that keep going up in this city. With rapid growth comes major problems, and they are here, whether you like to see that they're here or not. My own neighborhood has now at least 5 rentals that I know of. When we moved in there, there were no rentals. We have people now, we have to call the police on every weekend. They don't know how to shut up. They don't know how to use proper language. It's vulgar and filthy, all hours of the day and night. And that's the sort of people you're bringing with your rapid growth. So I'm hoping you give some thought to slowing down and working on other things besides bringing in more houses and low income.
Thank you, Ms. Manier. Next speaker, please.
Tony Amatuli or Dorothy Wollins?
Or Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I'm Dorothy Wollins from the Menifee Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to congratulate Matt and Scott and John on your re-elections, and thank you all for all you do for the past year for the city, the residents, and the Chamber of Commerce. With me today, I have one of my board of directors, Mr. Lewis Hutchins.
Gentlemen, I'd like to give you the elf on the shelf. I was actually we were going to bring you a bunch of chocolate, but didn't make it from my house, so apologize. I don't know if you guys are aware of how the elf on the shelf works. So he's going to be keeping an eye on you guys and reporting back to Santa as the year goes on. So again, congratulations, and we appreciate your service.
I wish we had more council meetings so we could enjoy that more.
Thank you very much for that. We appreciate that.
We can't wait to see where it shows up.
We appreciate the relationship between the city and the chamber. I think that over the last decade, it's been a positive progression, and I think we're there. We're there with a relationship between the chamber and the city that are indicative of other cities across America that are successful. And we really appreciate the relationship. Thank you very much.
We're grateful.
Next speaker, please.
Victoria Arendane.
Good evening, Mayor Scott and City Council members, and congratulations. My name is Victoria Arendine, and I'm a resident of Menifee and a member of the Senior Advisory Committee. As a resident of Menifee, I am here tonight to press the need for a senior recreational center with a multi-purpose leisure and sports center. Our current senior center is well over a few decades old, and we are currently growing out of it. A new senior recreational center shall serve the purpose of keeping our 55-plus seniors active, both mentally and physically. Staying active is the key to healthy living. The new center would also improve the quality of life for our seniors by creating an enjoyable environment that promotes social activities such as classes and activities, health services, with an indoor pool for therapeutic and aquatic exercises. The senior program, they will also provide senior programs and services such as assistant senior income preparations, applying for veterans aid and assistance, applications for utility assistance, senior discount programs which local merchants participate in, wellness seminars, managing arthritis, preventing neck pain, nutrition balance, and fall prevention. The new center should be located on the grounds of a Parks and Recreation Complex and accessible to trails, ball fields, park pavilions, outside theaters, and mini golf course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Ms. Miller?
Good evening, Council. I wish to speak of the conservative attitudes that are infecting the culture and leading the people's behavior on an impacting path. The conservatives claim man does not make a contribution to rising CO2. They say the CO2 is coming up from the ocean from deep trenches of 350-degree warm water and methane rising. Those areas concentrated under the Antarctic would not heat the massive ocean. They say we are still reeling in the repercussions of volcanoes in Philippines and Indonesia. The amount of CO2 would also not have warmed the surface of the massive oceans and would be back in the atmosphere. It is rising to over 400 parts per million. It is because man does contribute to this with his foolish ways. That's foolish. By overheating or cooling too many spaces, they take extra trips in cars when they should find out what local actions would be better than going to Los Angeles or San Diego, or finding carpools or exhausting every source to work where they live or move back to where they live. And some are obsessed with speeding and leaving engines on for heating and cooling. The conservatives say we need more babies to save the economy. We don't need to create more lies to replace the people here. We need to decrease the drain of resources because manufacturers will not use recycle resources or invent mechanically engineered replacements for transportation, shipping, and electricity. There isn't enough water or food growing areas. We can't use the trees for more building, so don't run around telling people to have more children. They will live in natural disasters without minimum food, water, utilities. Have the normal 2 or under children. We are having children to stay on the government subsidies, and that is just not creative job creation. Don't give your wife a child for the holiday season if you have 2 already. The economy will be boosted because such actions as the air compressed car is coming to town. The Native Americans will be able to grow cannabis, sativa, and industrial hemp. Public transit will jet up I-215. Food will be grown organically and locally. Offshore accounts will be returned, creating jobs in existing structures. Then the conservatives say there is plenty of water, and endangering fish species shouldn't stop the agri-factory farms from draining the Sacramento Delta. How insane! Factory farms are controlled by chemicals that are killing the bees and not supported by living wage employees who produce our food organically. And they shouldn't be sent any water until they stop using Monsanto and Dow chemical products. And that's for this area too. Support organic agriculture. These 2 rains are a start for bringing back 30 to 100 feet
Miller?
that we are down.
Ms. Miller, that's your time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Appreciate your comments. Next speaker, please.
Marlene Starkey?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm not quite as prepared as everybody in front of me. I didn't know how to do this. But I'm here regarding the Pete Peterson Park, the dog park. The hours of operation that are there, I guess the hours that they have is from dawn till dusk. And I just, as far as patrolling the park with the hours, new hours changing, people are coming in like at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And when they let their dogs loose in the area that for the dogs, they don't control them. I mean, the barking is just out of control. So at 6 o'clock in the morning on the weekends, I mean, it's just waking us up and it's crazy. But if it's dawn till dusk, the park closes at dusk and there's still people there till 8, 9 o'clock at night. So we just need to come up with some kind of park hours for the dog park or something. Because I live right across the street and it's very disruptive. I've gotten into fights with some of the, not physically, but verbal fights with some of the people, being called names and stuff like that because they told me I need a muzzle on my mouth instead of putting one on their dog. So, I mean, that's the kind of actions that I get from the people to ask them. I've gone over there because I've had several surgeries. I said, please keep your dogs quiet. And they tell me to put a muzzle on. So we just need to come up with some kind of hours or something for the dog park. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, could we have Mr. Lennox at least explore the hours at this juncture?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Those are all the speakers for tonight, sir.
Thank you. We have council member reports on committee activities. Gentlemen, do you have any reports tonight? Mr. August?
I do have a report. I want to thank Rob Johnson for lending me the support of the staff to conduct our town hall meeting at Case Inacero Center on the 8th of December. It was regarding the town hall, primarily was featuring the speakers regarding mail theft and mailbox vandalism in the area. And we did have speakers from all over the city there. We had a turnout of about 130 people. It was we used all the seats in the place. I want to thank special thanks to our staff. Let's just go over them one by one. My special thanks to, of course, to Rob for allowing these people to come down and give me assistance in setting up the town hall. Our Gina over there, we worked on it for several weeks, and I want to thank her for setting up the agenda. Let's see, for handling all the invitations, doing all the coordination for the guests, setting up the programs and things like that. So it wouldn't have been a success without you, so a very, very special thanks to you. Alan Yoon was great as usual, setting up the stage, the microphones, and give us a real good communication setup for the whole meeting. Mr. Lennox, you were there as well. I want to support your team for allowing to come down as well. I want to thank Captain Mike Judge. He was there. Our special guests were Captain Mike Judge and the Menifee Police Chief, and also Shane Seitz, the Postal Master, for coming down, sitting on. We also had someone from Jayco Industry. We had the mailboxes, the newest and state-of-the-art secure mailboxes on the walls so people could see them. So we gave them an opportunity to show off their wares. Captain Judge talked about many of the laws and how the postmaster they coordinate with each other. Actually, he didn't give me much confidence because he talked more about AB 47 and 109, and the prison release program and things like that. So they're mail theft and ID theft, there were 10 million cases reported in 2010, and now our authorities, law enforcement, is predicting that crime will probably double within the next 10 years. So it is going to become more of a serious crime, more serious, and probably become more prevalent in our city. Captain Shane Seitz, a retired Marine, the postmaster, I was very, very impressed with him. I kind of considered him our star guest because he interfaced, and believe me, there were a lot of questions, a lot of anger with him, but he interfaced with the audience very, very well, making many, many concessions and answering many questions of the people in the audience. So I was extremely pleased with that. Mr. Johnson, he probably wants me to forget this, but he even made some concessions on the part of the city about perhaps helping some of these people with the clustered mailboxes, perhaps provide some type of lunar solar lighting for them. So I don't know if you're pursuing that or not, but the offer was made, I think. All right. So I want to thank everybody. It was a good turnout. We're getting lots of positive feedback from it. It was a real good town hall, and I hope I haven't forgotten anybody because it was an all-hands effort. It was a team effort, and like I said, it was a very successful. I'm very proud to have had the opportunity to meet so many of our 130 people out in the community. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. August.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking on yet another issue and tackling it head on and wrapping your hands around those. I'm hoping that staff can encapsulate recommendations and share it with the rest of the council at the appropriate time. Mr. Edgerton?
I'm a representative to the RTA appointed by the mayor, Riverside Transit Authority, and there's a spin-off group called TNOW, which promotes public transportation. We go around to different cities. Generally, that's where we have our venue, Temecula, Marietta, Elsinore. Today it was here. And as usual, staff does a great job of laying things out, and I wanted to thank staff. Gina was on point today, and thank you, Gina. Kathy is usually there, and of course, Julie and Alan, and these guys are so great about it. There was a representative from the RCTC today, Riverside County Transportation Authority, of which the mayor is our delegate. And it was a encouraging conversation about a number of roads that are going to be built. We're all worried about traffic congestion. And one of the difficulties, of course, is that we generate more housing, so we end up taking 2 steps forward and go 3 steps back. So we always seem to be in a traffic jam. But the RCTC has some very good plans along that line. In addition to that, they spoke of some of the Metrolink programs that are coming in. And I think everyone here that follows transportation knows that once you can get your mass transportation going, it'll make up for several lanes on a highway. And for those of you who follow markets, I know the mayor does, I do, Janet Yellen, as you know, is chairman of our Federal Reserve Board, had some very good news today about our economy and the fact that the government wasn't going to do anything about quantitative easing, and the stock market had its biggest jump this year, all year long today. But that's good news, because if the economy does as well as Ms. Yellen hopes it does, then that's reflected in federal grants, that's reflected in more money from the federal government and the state government. Means we'll have more money for highways, means we'll have more money for Metrolink and for bus services, so that they'll be predictable, they'll be more frequent, they'll run for longer periods of time. That'll take a lot of stress off of this disagreement we have about housing, because it gives us some option in reference to traffic, and I thought that was good news. It came out of our TNOW meeting today, and I want to again thank staff for helping us with it.
Thank you, Mr. Edgerton, for that report, and thank you for your service on RTA. It's the continuity that you've provided there has been a steady hand and a steady leadership, and I think you're the vice chair, right?
Yeah, well,
Of the Finance Committee.
No, I'm the chair of 2 different committees.
Excellent.
But I passed up going through the chairs.
Well, we thank you for that service. Gentlemen, any other reports? I just want to share a personal note. Some of you don't know, the staff knows, but I really appreciate council and staff's thoughts towards me for my knee surgery. It was not a life-threatening thing, but the fact that I was laid up for a while, I really appreciate your sentiments, appreciate your thoughts, appreciate the flowers, and I appreciate the card that you all gave me, and I just wanted to publicly acknowledge and thank you for all that. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. On to the consent calendar. Do we have any modifications to the consent calendar tonight? If not, I would entertain a motion for the balance to be approved.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Denver. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. August. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Councilmember August.
Aye.
Councilmember Leesmeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Edgerton. Mayor Pro Tem Denver. Mayor Mann.
Aye.
Thank you.
And Mr. Leesmeyer?
Yeah, I just wanted to take a brief second and thank staff for the efforts out there. I know that there were some residents that came to the table and really brought up some issues with some of the resurfacing on one of those items there on the consent calendar. I want to thank you for your efforts in dealing with the residents out there.
Well done.
That is regarding, where we at, 10.6, the resurfacing of, what is that?
The Quail
Casa
Valley.
Medina and Vista Way.
Yeah, marvelous. Great part of the pavement management plan. So thank you all for that. We have no public hearings for tonight, and on to our discussion items. 12.1, approve agreement with RGM Design Group for Parks Parks, Trails, Open Space, and Recreation Master Plan. Mr. Johnson, staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much. Robert Lennox, your Community Services Director, has the balance of the item.
Thank you, City Manager, Mayor, and Council. This item is for consideration of a contract award to move forward with a comprehensive park master plan for the City of Menifee. Quick background, on June 4th, the Council did consider a recommendation from staff to award a contract for the study. At the time, Council did elect to delay the study to allow the Park Recreation and Trails Commission some time to assess the system and acclimate and provide a better inventory of what we currently have. That time has lapsed or has occurred, and now staff is returning with a recommendation. This study would allow for a full inventory of the city's park system, the assets, programs, and any capacity for growth in the future. As I mentioned in the past, staff is receiving multiple track maps and conditions for parks to be built with new subdivisions in town, and so the timing is right. The plan would also assist with CIP planning and set development and funding priorities for staff and council moving forward. So the outcome of the study would be incorporated into a CIP plan, which would be approved annually by council. The plan will also solicit input from the community for public facilities, amenities, and different types of use. It truly is comprehensive. And just as a recollection, on October 23rd, the Park Recreation Trails Commission did have a public hearing on the Quimby and mitigation ordinances. That first reading came to council at the last meeting. It is also, or it was recently just passed just now on consent for a second reading. And a portion of that those ordinances is contingent upon having a comprehensive master plan to guide developers on what type of improvements and amenities should occur for park space in the city. So again, the timing is right. Then the Park Recreation Trails Commission did make a recommendation to pursue the plan after conferring with staff and also hearing a number of proposed park plans that have come forward relative to independent subdivisions. Then on November 20th, the Commission did review the proposal, which you have before you tonight, and have made some recommendations based off that review. December 3rd, Council had their first reading of the Quimby mitigation ordinances, as I mentioned, and of course the second reading this evening. Some of the prerequisites for having park dedication and improvement so that you can understand the nexus between a master plan and these Quimby and mitigation ordinances. Basically, per government code, the legislative body has to adopt a general plan, which it has, or a specific plan containing policies and standards for park and recreation facilities. And the park and recreation facilities are in accordance with definite principles and standards. You may recognize this the last time I presented on those two ordinances. Essentially, this code allows the city to refer developers to a park master plan in order for them to pursue with their developments. So the components of a plan, and I'm not going to get too in-depth on this because I'm going to invite up the proposed consultant to complete the plan so that they can run through this in better detail than I can provide. But there are 10 pieces to this that they'll explain when they come up that are on the screen here. But for the process, just so you have a recollection, the staff did issue an RFP for the master plan on March 22nd and a deadline of the 16th of April. 7 responses were received and were rated by staff. And based off of the rankings, 3 finalists were selected and interviews were conducted on May 12th of 2014. Based on the rankings and the interviews, RGM Design Group was selected as the consultant that staff felt should be considered for a contract in the amount not to exceed $220,000, which is within the budgeted amount. On the screen now is the results of feedback provided by the Park Recreation and Trails Commission when they reviewed the options. I apologize for the size of the print. You do have the the task options price sheet in your packet as well, so you can follow along there in bigger print. In essence, it shows all phases of the project, and pricing for each task within each phase. The three options that were considered by the commission are option A, which is the full plan, and what is being recommended by the commission as well as staff, and it is the same plan that was presented back in May. Option B is also a credible plan, but it does remove a maintenance and sustainability component as well as a phone survey, and it is the commission's second choice. Again, it would work, however, it would lack a little bit of credibility, still would be able to uphold the tenets of a master plan. Option C removes a lot of the really critical pieces, including draft reviews of the plan. It's not recommended by staff. It was the third choice by the commission. And so those are the three options being presented. Staff felt if there was any additional effort to trim these down for further options, really the credibility of the report wouldn't be sufficient to guide developers and to guide really the city and the department moving forward in the expansion of the system. So on the screen is a project timeline. It typically is about a up to a year-long process. What's being proposed by the consultant is a 9 to 10-month project timeline. It does incorporate community input through design charrettes, workshops, and surveys. This also is in your backup of the item. The Parks, Recreation, and Trails Commission, Senior Advisory Committee, and the Youth Advisory Committee will all be critical parts in providing feedback during the plan process. So with that, though, to get a little bit into the tasks, I want to invite up Bob Meeting from RJM to provide you more detail and definition on what the plan will include.
But before the guest speaker comes up, can I just ask a philosophical? Can you go back to the next slide?
Sure.
That's okay. The question I have is, with respect to what you just presented about the master plan and input from, I can understand the input from the youth advice. We have a sitting Parks, Rec, and Trails Commission. So when it comes to the Parks, Recs, and Trails and Open Space Master Plan, why do we need to take input from the other committees?
Well,
I mean, it's a valid question. I just want to know what the logic is.
Sure. The benefit of any plan, similar to a general plan for the city, is to have as much community feedback as possible, because then you can provide kind of an averaged or normalized perspective of what the city needs. So the less people you involve, the more narrow that opinion is going to be. So casting a wide net to gather the feedback and then sort of tallying or analyzing those results and showing where you see trends of common interests based off the cross-section of age groups, so that's youth, seniors, and then sort of the adults within the commission. We'll provide that more broad collection of feedback. So each of those committees and the commission represent obviously a group, a subset of residents within the city. So it's an effort to hit everybody as much as possible.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Which button do I push, Robert?
The arrow forward, there you go.
This one? Okay. Good evening. Mr. Mayor and council members, it's my pleasure to be back again. Hopefully tonight we can move forward with the Park Recreation Master Plan, which is aimed at providing recreation for the entire community and all members of the community, regardless of their age or condition. In my case, I'm a seasoned citizen, and I've got a bad knee. I'm going to have to talk to you about your surgery. But the master plan is, we're going to look at every facet of recreation within the community. We're going to look at all of your facilities, all of your programs. We're going to work very closely with your Park and Recreation Commission and committees and your staff. We've worked with Robert in the past, and he's an excellent leader for your recreation programming and facilities, and I think he will give us a good direction as we move forward. So I'd just like to take maybe a few minutes of your time and illustrate for you some of the things, activities that we'll be doing. Okay, do I point this at anybody in particular?
No.
Button on the left. Oh, the one that's worn off.
Yeah.
That has no, okay. There's nothing on it. Okay. The purpose of the master plan is really to create a set of objectives to provide for development, redevelopment, expansion, and enhancement of the park system, open spaces, trails, and recreation facilities, programs and services, both in the short term, midterm, and long term for the city. This document, the process, I should say, will take a look at the background information relative to demographics, recreation issues and trends. The inventory, as I mentioned, will inventory all of your facilities programs. We'll look at a gap analysis in terms of the distribution of your recreation facilities. Public involvement is critical to this process because we want it to be unique and special to the unique and special community you have here in Menifee. You have wonderful volunteerism here, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of people participating in the process. We'll have stakeholder interviews hopefully with a number of you. We'll have a sports organization questionnaire that will go out to all the different organizations in the community. A telephone survey of 300 different households in the community, which will represent roughly 800 people in the community. We'll have 3 community workshops, and those workshops will be open to the entire community. We're looking forward to working with you and community members on progress along the way. Well, finally, with all of that background information, we'll develop a needs assessment based upon actual participation rates, things that people are actually doing here. And with that information, we will then put together recommendations for your review.
Can I ask a question?
Sure
Interject,
can.
please. You mentioned a 300 person sample survey. Household survey for a community of 85,000. How is that representative of a community of 85,000? Why can we not get, in your bid proposal, why can we not get more?
You certainly can. You can survey as many as you want, but in my opinion, and professional surveyors' opinion, you get a 95% confidence rate with the responses you get from that number of household participants. It's similar to if you watch the news and you see the presidential surveys where they'll survey 1,000 people for the entire country. It's based upon a probability of response, and this is a recommended number for this size of community.
No, I understand. I've won and lost elections, and I understand statistical averages and whatnot. Is the 300 for our community is kind of low, in my opinion.
If you would like to do more, we'd be happy to do.
Well, I mean, I'm asking you, is your proposal, are you fixed at 300, or do you have flexibility to offer to survey more?
If you want to survey more, we'd have to do something else with our
with your bid.
With the yes, with the
okay,
proposal.
Mr. Edgerton.
Yeah, just pointing out. I know you're familiar with this, Mr. Mayor, but it is what you would want to look at, and I know you're aware of this, is how they process their sample rather than the size. If it is a true random sample, at some point an increase in size can literally detract from the probability of success. But I know nothing about how they put the sample together. So the first question is it a true random sample? If it's a true random sample of 300 households, it would work, but I don't know who put it together.
It is exactly that. It is a complete random sample. Numbers are drawn through a computer for phone numbers, and that's exactly how it was conducted.
Okay.
We also ask qualifying questions, where people live, so we get a good distribution of people in the community. We also ask some demographic questions, ages of people in the household, that type of thing. So what we're trying to get is information of all people in the community, representative by the phone survey.
The only
It's
reason
statistically valid information.
The only reason why I ask is, when it comes to parks, recs, and trails, and the delivery of that service, we're bifurcated right now in our city in terms of who delivers that. And so I would hate to have the survey skewed based upon a sampling of 300 people if it's random, but it's also heavily weighted to an area where Valley-wide is versus where the Valley-wide's not. So I wanted to raise that to your attention.
I appreciate
and to you, Mr. Lennox.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We are aware of that.
Okay.
One of the qualifiers will also be, in addition to where they live, but we want to have some landmarks, because a lot of people don't know, they think their zip code is the only thing that needs to be done. But we will actually have very specific questions that will vet that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is just a timeline that Robert mentioned earlier. On the top portion is really document preparation. On the bottom portion is community engagement. Starting, we're hoping to start in January on the project. We're having stakeholder interviews in February, phone survey conducted in early spring, sports organization questionnaires distributed at that time, and then our workshop process in late spring, May, June, and into the end of June for the workshops. Following that, all the needs assessment recommendations in the final document will be prepared. One of the things I mentioned in the inventory is we'll look at all the parks, all the programs. We'll also look at gap, what I refer to as a gap analysis. This is a community that will remain nameless. Public involvement is very, very critical and important to the process. And you can see here some of the examples of people from other workshops we've conducted. This is really one of, I think one of the things I take most pride in is the community involvement in our projects. We listen to the community, we take their information to heart, and we use that information in developing our recommendations. I mentioned the different tools we'll be using. One of the things that I like to point out to people, you can get a lot of people to participate if you offer them one thing, and that's, as Fred has here on the side of his car, ribs. But I think any kind of food would do. We suggest that. We also will go through with the staff outreach efforts that we can get out, the word out to people, as many people as we possibly can in the community to participate. One of the results of all of the analysis will be recommendations for specific parks in terms of either renovation, retrofit, or new park parcels, as well as standards for the city for a wide variety of recreation facilities and activities. As a council, we look at you as the ambassadors of the city. You have tremendously important information for us as stakeholders in the community, so we'll want to be talking to some of you. Also, we'll rely on you and your forum to disseminate information and make the final decision as to the recommendation for the master plan. So I look forward to working with you, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Mr. Edgerton?
Well, I would just go back. I agree with your concern, Mayor. In reference to what you described as a random sample, and I'm sure it is, in effect, the city's your universe, so and we're talking about statistics 1 here, so this isn't above anybody's head. But we want to be sure that every single entity, and that's what the mayor is after, every single entity in this city has an equal opportunity of being selected from that sample. So if you're going to, again, I don't want to go back to the ABCs of sophomore, but we just want to make sure when you say 300 samples, that does include the probability that every particular type or person would have an equal opportunity of being selected in that sample.
Yeah, I appreciate your concern, and I appreciate the question. It's actually 300 households. We talk to an adult member of the household so that we can get data on each one of the members of that household. So if we have 300 homes and say an average of 3 people per home, we would be getting a sample of 900 individuals. Hopefully, and again, with the information we ask them about demographics, we get a spectrum of age groups, a spectrum of different geographic locations within the city, and a spectrum of interest relative to recreation.
Did your people who put that sample together, is it described as an authentic random sample?
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm not a statistician, but we have those people who do the phone surveys. That's all they do. So it's a very, very specific. It's really foundational information for the study, and it's going to give your study very specific information for your community. So the report will be unique to Menifee. It's not based upon national standards or somebody else's standards. It's really going to be very unique to your community based upon what the residents of this community are doing in terms of participating in recreation.
Thank you.
Mr. August?
Quick question. Just to chime in with Mr. Edgar and Mr. Mayor said, you obviously had a lot of experience in doing this work for cities and et cetera. Now, you clearly have dealt with cities of different demographics, different sizes, and et cetera. So what would be the difference between a city, say, for instance, San Bernardino, as opposed to, I don't think there would probably be much difference between this city, Marietta, or Temecula, but San Bernardino and Menifee, give us, well, how would you?
You are blessed to be here in Menifee. We did do Murrieta's Park and Rec Master Plan a few years ago. We did do San Bernardino's a few years ago. We've
you get
also
paid?
done Pasadena's. I'm sorry?
Did you get paid?
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I just want to make sure.
Thank you
I
for
mean,
that question. We did, yes, we did.
So my only point in bringing it in, I'll let you answer the question in a second, is that I think you probably have a pretty good idea what you're doing when you put these kind of samples together.
We do. The community of San Bernardino is completely different than Menifee. It's an older community that's been there for a long time. They have a wealth of problems in that community that has to do with homeless, that has to do with crime, all of the things that affect their quality of life. They have a wealth of parkland there, undeveloped parkland, or poorly maintained because it's simply not budgeted for. So those are huge challenges for that community. We made a very strong pitch that they needed to plan in their budget for the ongoing maintenance and care of the existing parks, much less any new parks that might come online. So you have a different opportunity here. With Quimby and with your other acts that you're reviewing that you approved tonight, you're going to have an opportunity to create a wonderful park system. You've got good leadership here. You've got a great opportunity in front of you. You can take pride in developing a wonderful park system and open space system for this community. So I'm looking forward to working with you. I think I'm excited about it. It's going to be a tremendous experience for all of us, I think, together.
And last question, you probably already have an idea in your mind what is going to come back as a result of those surveys.
I would not even speculate. Honestly, I can't even think that far ahead. I can tell you that the product that you're going to get is going to be a very concise, usable document that will be used day to day by your staff and used by you in planning each year going forward. So you have a blueprint for the future.
Mr. Leesmeyer?
I would echo your sentiment. I am also very excited about having this done. I did want to ask a question, though, about how the surveys get done and how the, well, let me back up. You know that we have a very unique demographic. We have a senior core. We have a rural area. We have a family center. We have Quail Valley. It's a mix of all of that. A concern I have is, would you ask a question of somebody who lives in the senior core, something related to horses? And would you ask a question of somebody who lives in the rural area, something that would pertain to, I don't know, something that seniors like to do? I don't know. So, do you understand what I'm saying? We want to make sure that we get
like
the right
to do a lot of things.
Sorry?
We like to do a lot of things, those of us who are seasoned.
So how do you balance out our unique demographics here?
Let me answer you by telling you how we will do it. We will provide you with a list of topics, the staff with a list of topics, and he'll review it with, I'm sure, with all of you, to get your feedback. We have a specialist who's very, very experienced in writing this type of a survey. It's very unique. It's not like you just calling and ask for opinion, well, how do you like the city, or how do you like the council, or how do you like anything? It's very specific to Park and Recreation. And because of that, we do ask very specific questions, and we ask the same questions of everyone. We do not change questions. Now, there may be a series of questions where you ask one question, the response is no, then you skip down because the following questions are irrelevant. So there's that kind of refinement. So you'll get a list of topics to review and comment on, and then we'll actually give you an opportunity to give the staff a complete narrative of each question because it's read specifically. It's very important that the same wording, everything is specific for this to be valid. If we start changing the questions, then we're not going to get good data. Okay.
So, for me, when it comes to us making a decision about hiring you to develop this plan, and I commend the Parks, Recs, Trails Commission for moving us forward. The council members up here have raised a lot of issues. I mean, Menifee's unique. It's a unique patchwork of communities. We're different than Wildomar. We're different than Eastvale. We're different than Jurupa Valley, and all of us have incorporated in the last 4, 5, 6 years. But we have the benefit of Temecula and Murrieta incorporating and then growing to a certain point. So the fact that you did work in Marietta helps me make a decision about you going forward with this. I mean, we have only one opportunity to do this the right way. So I appreciate you standing up there and taking the questions and answering us. And I really appreciate the time and effort that you've put forward. And I appreciate your patience with us working through this for the months that we have. And it has been a work in progress. And that's okay. That's how we work, to make sure that we have the best decision for the community. So thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lennox.
Sure, I don't have much more. I have the recommended actions on the screen, which are the same that are listed in the staff report. It's essentially up to the will of the council to review the proposed task list, select the option that best fits the recommendation, and then contingent upon that selection, authorize the city manager to execute the professional services agreement. Additionally, approving a 10% contingency for the project, and then approve budget allocations of $150,000 from the Parks Diff Fund and $92,000 from the Trails Diff Fund to finance the project. And to be clear, none of the dollars used for this project will come from general fund. That concludes my report.
Mr. Johnson?
If it pleases the council, I'd just like to add that, this is another foundational step for us, another building block. We had a lot of firsts in 2013. We kind of chalked this one up as we thought we were ready for this, and we weren't. Council recommended the Parks, Recs, and Trails Commission. They've done a marvelous job. There's a few in the audience tonight. And they're at the point now where they're recommending back to staff that we bring this forward. So I just want to be very clear with council that staff's taken direction from council, made it very appropriately and educated as much as possible to the commission, and the commission is now ready to move forward. So we're asking approval of staff's recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Council, do you have any further questions or comments at this point? I'll entertain a motion regarding staff's recommendation. Mr. Edgerton moves.
Which option would he be moving for?
You're moving option A.
Staff's recommendation is option
Which is
A.
option A, yeah.
Yep. I would second option A.
Seconded by Mr. Leesmeyer. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. So to be clear, we are moving option A and seconding option A.
Yep.
Authorizing city manager and transfer of funds. Thank you. Council Member August.
Aye.
Council Member Leesmeyer.
Aye.
Council Member Edgerton. Mayor Pro Tem Denver. Mayor Mann.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, staff, and thank you for the commission. Well done to you guys. Thank you so much for working that out. I mean, we really appreciate. It's been a blessing that you guys have been seated and working this stuff through. So thank you so much.
Now the real work begins.
Yeah, now the real work begins. That's exactly right. On to agenda item 12.2, a discussion to consider assumption of responsibility for the fence along Highway 74, repair and maintenance. Is there a staff report on this, or is this a discussion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, there's not generally a staff report. We've gathered some information of what we know has happened in the past, and I'd like to provide that information and then obviously hand it off to council, Mayor Pro Tem Denver, if that's the pleasure of the council.
Yes, it is.
In adding this item to the list of agenda topics to come back, my staff did a little bit of research and found out that obviously some things you know, but I'll just state for a fact that the fencing was an RDA project, and it provided EDA with 20 extra fencing panels at the project closeout, and that was to use when pedestrians cut the fence and to make those repairs. Between June of 2012 and April of 2014, the fence was repaired about 20 times, or exactly 20 times. Only twice was the repair due to a vehicle accident. The other 18 repairs are actually vandalism or cut-through fencing. The cost of each repair is about $824.94. So $824.94
Times 20.
for one section of fencing. So the amounted cost in 2 years for the replacement is about $16,498. That's through vendor known Crown Fencing and Corona. Staff did a little more research and looked actually into, and I'll thank Robert Lennox and Gina Gonzalez. They actually went back to the incorporation documents and tried to find out if we could, whose responsibility of that area it was. And we discovered through Valleywide engineering report, it actually discloses that Valleywide currently receives assessments to maintain the transportation corridor on Highway 74 from I-215 freeway to Winchester Road. So it's a very long corridor and an assessment area in which we believe through their engineering reports that they actually have not only received assessments, but they should be maintaining that area. We'd be happy to contact them, but I think more importantly, Mayor Pro Tem Denver would like a discussion on I think on how to move forward and his concerns of pedestrians moving across those tracks and in that Roma Land area and actually, causing harm to themselves and seeing a risk and liability to the city. So that's the information that we found based on what we know to date. We do know that RDA and EDA through the county, they're out of money. Pretty much the fence will not be repaired again. So I'm all ears for the conversation and any direction you would have for me to take with staff.
Mr. Denver?
My concern, as you well know, since I've made it any number of times, is that the fence was built in the city of Menifee for reasons of safety and for aesthetics and for other reasons. The purposes of the fence are to keep kids off the railroad tracks, keep people from going to one side of an area across a very large road, Highway 74, to go to markets and or school and or other places on the other side of Highway 74. It is, in my opinion, a dangerous activity to go across Highway 74, particularly if it's a group of kids or a group of young adults. And I think that we need to, I think we have a legal, or we have a moral at minimum responsibility, once this fence is up, to keep it in repair as we can. Now, there's 1,000, as I've asked before, there's 1,000 different things we can do, some very expensive, and I'm not pushing that. We could try and build a overpass over that, a walkway for thousands of dollars to accomplish, once we rebuilt the road, the walkway, I guess, would probably eliminate the need for the people to go back and forth. We could have a light, let's say, put in there. That's also thousands of dollars. We could make a walkway with blinking lights. I don't know the cost of that. I was kind of hoping that we would have some choices to think about. But with the new information about funding coming to Valleywide because of that, what I would like to discuss now is that we instruct the city to negotiate with Valleywide to do repairs on that. And I think that if there isn't enough money one time starting out or whatever it is, come back to us and maybe we'd contribute. That's built with, the repairs are done, the damage is done with just regular cutters. There's nothing unusual going on there. There's the other fences put into our town, not there, were done with material you can't cut. So if you were to just do the repairs with a material that is upgraded, you'd have much less, I'm not saying none, repairs on that. The second thing is that I think we have some, fourth thing, I think we have some legal liabilities. When you know, I don't get them every day, I don't get them every week, but I've had 50 phone calls from people in that community, and by some of the leaders of some of that community that this is a dangerous thing. They'd like us to fix it. And their comments are maybe not as correct as we think, but they think that Roma Land's being ignored. They think that we spend an awful lot of money in Sun City. No, I'm not objecting to that. But we don't spend money in Roma Land. And they'd like to see some amount of money go into Roma Land to fix some things that are dangerous. So I think in terms of political realities, I think in terms of physical realities, I think in terms of safety realities, in terms of any number of reasons, we really should take this on and at minimum come up with a plan on how to do this and bring it back to us.
Other comments?
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, that's a very big concern. I'm questioning that contractor that's making those repairs. As a contractor myself, I don't think I could fathom an $800 bill for fixing a chain link fence. But did you say that Valleywide is on the hook for this, or they're making assessments? We don't know if Valleywide's responsible for maintaining this, or
well, our understanding of their 2013-14 engineer report, the maximum assessments related to Menifee North, and there's 6 different subzones, and there's tract numbers that are applied to that subzone, and there's dwelling units applied to that, and there's actual dollars amounts applied to that, and it all relates to the transportation corridor of Highway 74. So if
it's not clear.
It's not clear, but it's not unclear.
Right.
So, I mean, we definitely have to do some further research on that to find out, but I would imagine the Highway 74 corridor, if it includes landscaping or it includes a portion of an area that was under redevelopment that was in Valleywide's territory, that they would then be the holder of that. And Robert looks like he has additional information because he's the one that actually identified it.
Mr. Lennox and then Mr. Edgerton.
A good approach might be to inquire with Valleywide since 2013-14 what improvements have been applied with some of those assessments that have been collected to Highway 74 and adjacent landscaping. If it's been limited, or if it's been none at all, then you would know immediately if there's something due, and those funds could then be applied to perhaps whatever the council's discretion would be, or at the very least a recommendation to the Valleywide Board of what those improvements should be.
Mr. Leesmeyer still have the floor.
So backing up, John mentioned, Councilman Denver mentioned that fence was originally put in to protect the railroad track. Obviously
Partly.
Partly. So that railroad track obviously is abandoned or dormant for now. Does the railroad still have any culpability in this? It would seem to me that if there was ever an accident, somebody would be looking for the railroad as well, because that, if I'm not mistaken, is in their right of way.
Correct. We do not own the railroad at all.
Correct.
The railroad portion of it
And I'm referring to the fence. So the fence itself, who owns the fence?
is on the railroad property, I believe.
Okay, so that is the railroad's fence.
It's in their right of way, not ours.
Correct. Okay. And then, okay, well, that's it for questions. I'd definitely be in favor of looking at ways to get this thing fixed. And maybe even exploring the highest propensity area where it does get cut, and maybe looking at some sort of an additional treatment, maybe like you said, a lighted crosswalk or something like that to help. Done.
Yeah, good ideas. Mr. Edgerton?
Just simply echoing much of what's already been said, and that is Deputy Mayor Denver mentioned the potential liability because of safety, which is a good point. And then, of course, there's the legal liability of contracts. And so that, I guess, seems to me where the questioning is going, and that when we get the report back, we'd like to be sure that if the county, or maybe much to our surprise, even the railroad, as Matt mentioned, may have some responsibility, whether they do or not, and certainly Valleywide, so that if we proceed to take this on, that it's clear who is funding it, and it did appear that the funding should come from somebody else and not us.
Mr. August?
I'm going to agree with everything that's been said so far. Mr. Leesmeyer, excellent questions. Mr. Edgerton, I agree with you. I just want to point out, it's not unsimilar to what we're talking about with mailbox vandalism. This types of vandalism goes on. So it kind of piqued my mind that when somebody brought in the highest state-of-the-art type mailboxes, perhaps people are experiencing these types of problems in other areas, similar problem. So maybe there is I think we're pretty good right now, but maybe there is kind of a state-of-the-art, up-to-date fix on a problem like this. And I'm not asking if the staff would look into that, but maybe the staff wants to look into that.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. August, and I agree with a lot of, and I concur with Mr. Denver's, this thing's been languishing, and I know that Mr. Melching has his button pushed, and so did Mr. Johnson, but it seems to me that we have a multi-jurisdictional issue here from the standpoint of a repair was affected with RDA funds, which is now defunct. Funds were expended. You're an expert with the state of California getting RDA back for municipalities and affecting those things. And so we have an assessment, though, by Valley-wide, by staff's research, for an ongoing repair or an ongoing maintenance effort. But at the same time, it's on railroad property. And you also have the component of RCTC, which I sit on, and the new San Jacinto line is going to go through that area. So I think there's a multi-jurisdictional issue here, and I think we need Mr. Melching's help in sorting out some courses of action here on what our liability actually is, what it could be, and what our responsibility is for maintaining the fence line. But I think Mr. Denver's been asking for this for over a year, so we need to take action on it. At least let's get the players together, and maybe the answer is, I don't know, maybe the answer is we go to the WRCOG TAC, maybe it's the RCTC TAC, Public Works and City Man, and see what happens with fixing the fence line and some sort of maintenance of effort. Mr. Melching.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You made it easy for me. I'll be brief. I would be happy to put together an analysis that talks about potential liability, and I feel compelled to say when I mention the words potential liability in an open session as a general proposition, if we don't own it, we can't be liable for a dangerous condition on it. That being said, I will put together an analysis of that, and equally important, maybe more important, an analysis of who has responsibility for what in terms of repairs.
And maybe a solution?
And absolutely, thank you, Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Denver. Absolutely, I will try and give you a proposal that points to a solution.
Based upon the comments from all five of us, it seems like there's a unanimous consent to proceed in that way. Do you need anything else from us in order to do that?
Not a thing. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Denver, are you satisfied with the progress on this item at this juncture?
Thank you all for working on this.
Okay, marvelous. All right, on to city attorney reports.
I stand to surprise maybe tonight. I do have a brief city attorney report. The city manager asked me to fill you in a little bit on some potential progress on one of the items that is listed at the end of the agenda. Since I've been here, there's been an item that has to do with increasing the broadcast facilities for city council meetings on a go-forward basis. And at its core, I have to say that project, that process is a capital facilities process, and I, in my role as the attorney, don't have a lot to say about the capital facilities process. But I did identify upon coming here something that the city doesn't have in its municipal code that many other jurisdictions have. I would say most other jurisdictions have, and that's what's called a PEG ordinance. PEG is short for Public Educational and Governmental Programming. And what that does is it allows the city to recoup a percentage of the 1% of the gross revenues of the cable operator, the incumbent cable operator in the city. This is allowed by state law by something called the Digital Infrastructure and Video Competition Act of 2006. And what it does is it creates a fund or in a stream of revenue, 1% of gross revenues of the cable operator that get flowed into purchasing capital facilities for public educational and governmental programming. And in many cities, those capital facilities are facilities used in city council chambers to broadcast public meetings. And so while this isn't a solution that would manifest itself at the next city council meeting or even in the next 3 months, I will be prepared in early 2015 to bring before you a PEG ordinance for your consideration. And it is a step in the right direction, I would say a building block toward achieving what I think is an objective based on what's listed on the agenda. That's the conclusion of my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Melching. Mr. Denver?
I'm really excited to hear all this finally, that we get this work done. You mentioned, I think this is all handled, but I just want to say it out loud. That is part of the need is not just our city council meetings or our information out. We need to have a channel, what in Paris and other places, Channel 3, where organizations have their meetings, the performances, shows, stuff that's locally done. And that would be all part of it too.
Absolutely. In fact, the Digital Infrastructure and Video Competition Act has provisions in it that relate to the dedication of channels for that purpose. And so Part A is money that it can be used for capital facilities that can take public meetings and other public programming and show them to the public live. And Part B, of course, is to get you a channel to put that on.
So in light of the, one of the items on the consent calendar was a quarterly fiscal report from the fiscal director. Thank you, sir. And we talked about, there was franchise fees in there. So how does this 1% PEG or PEP impact the franchise fee, or is this above and beyond the cable franchising fees that we currently enjoy?
Yeah, one way of thinking of it is it takes the 5% and makes it 6%,
Okay.
except that the last percent may only be spent on capital facilities. And lest I forget to get this out at some other point in time, I want to say, for capital facilities, that 1% fund cannot be used to pay for ongoing operations and maintenance. And so if there were personnel costs associated with it, we'd have to look to perhaps the franchise fees, the 5%, but the 1% is earmarked money for capital
So
only.
it's one-time money.
It's ongoing money,
It's
but it can
capital.
only be spent on capital.
Got it.
Yeah.
I look forward to that report. That's fantastic. That's good news, actually. Thank you very much. Mr. Manager, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I just have one very large item. This morning, I attended an emergency operations meeting where 4 of us cities got together to talk about the recent Railroad Canyon shutdown and provide some feedback to our partners, specifically Edison, on the way that information was being rolled out in a management format. Jonathan Smith was with me. Steve Glenn was with me as well. We met with the cities of Lake Elsinore, Canyon Lake, and Wildemar. County OES was there, Menifee PD, CAL FIRE, Menifee Fire, Edison. The result is that we're designing and drafting a protocol for regional support of any major arterial affecting any one of our cities. As you recall, the first shutdown was December 3rd. I don't know if you actually remember, but it was 2 a.m. in the morning. There was an incident on Railroad Canyon about halfway down, and the initial report was a 2-hour fix, and that came from Edison, but unfortunately the call out takes about an hour to get there, so now you're looking at 3 hours, which became 4 hours, which became 8 hours, and traffic backed up all throughout our city and all the way back onto Dominagoni, past Winchester. By the time 6 o'clock rolled around, I was notified from Grant Yates, the city manager in Elsinore, that hey, there's a problem here. And we rolled out our emergency operations plan, got our message boards out, and redirected traffic down Marietta to Bundy Canyon and out to 15 that way. Unfortunately, many motorists had already passed through. Canyon Lake didn't have any electronic signs, so they had to wait till the officers were able to get vehicles moving in the eastbound lane in both directions. So they had a westbound lane open and eastbound lane on the eastbound lanes, which obviously took a long time. So then our next event happened that very Saturday, the same week. There was another incident on Railroad Canyon, and thankfully our message boards were already out for our Christmas tree lighting, and remotely, our staff was able to remotely change the message signs, and then we came out and moved them again because the same thing happened again. So really what we're doing is getting everybody together, and if that can happen on Railroad Canyon, it can happen on Bundy Canyon, it can happen on Clinton Keith, and so all of us are affected, and it was really unique. I'm really excited to be part of the city manager team that we have in the Southwest Riverside County. We all want to work together and make sure that all of our communities understand that we are kind of one region. We might be individual cities, but we're a region and we're working regionally, so I wanted to share that with you. And the second thing is I hope that you have a Merry Christmas and spend a lot of good family time with your families. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Really appreciate your report. Gentlemen, do you have future agenda requests or any other additional comments?
Not at this time.
I do have one comment. With respect to the agenda item that we moved off calendar tonight, I provided a draft of a potential policy, and I'll tell you what, the catalyst for me doing that was actually a conversation that I had had with Councilmember August earlier in the week, and it was as a result of that you made me think of it a little bit differently and view it with a different lens. So I appreciate that feedback from a colleague, and it helped precipitate that. So once we get to that point, I think direction's already been given to bring that back either at the next meeting or the following after that for comparison. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Hearing no other agenda requests for tonight, it is my honor on behalf of the entire council tonight to adjourn this meeting in honor of Mr. Michael Stout.